Fear is a powerful form of thought. It paralyzes the nerve centers, thus affecting the circulation of the blood. This in turn paralyzes the muscular system so that fear affects the entire being, body, brain and nerve, physical, mental and muscular. Of course, the way to overcome fear is to become conscious of power. What is this mysterious vital force which we call power? We do not know, but then neither do we know what electricity is. But we do know that by conforming to the requirements of the law by which electricity is governed, it will be our obedient servant, that it will light our homes, our cities, run our machinery, and serve us in many useful capacities. And so it is with vital force. Although we do not know what it is, and possibly may never know, we do know that it is a primary force which manifests through living bodies, and that by complying with the laws and principles by which it is governed, we can open ourselves to a more abundant inflow of this vital energy, and thus express the highest possible degree of mental, moral, and spiritual efficiency. This part tells of a very simple way of developing this vital force. If you put into practice the information outlined in this lesson, you will soon develop the sense of power which has ever been the distinguishing mark of genius. The search for truth is no longer a haphazard adventure, but it is a systematic process and is logical in its operation. Every kind of experience is given a voice in shaping its decision. In seeking the truth, we are seeking ultimate cause. We know that every human experience is an effect. Then, if we may ascertain the cause, and if we shall find that this cause is one which we can consciously control, the effect or the experience will be within our control also. Human experience will then no longer be the football of fate. A man will not be the child of fortune, but destiny. Fate and fortune will be controlled as readily as a captain controls his ship, or an engineer his train. All things are finally resolvable into the same element, and as they are thus translatable one into the other, they must ever be in relation and may never be in opposition to one another. In the physical world, there are innumerable contrasts, and these may for convenience sake be designed by distinctive names. There are sizes, colors, shades, or ends to all things. There is a North Pole and a South Pole, an inside and an outside, a seen and an unseen, but these expressions merely serve to place extremes in contrast. They are names given to two different parts of one quantity. The two extremes are relative. They are not separate entities, but are two parts or aspects of the whole. In the mental world, we find the same law. We speak of knowledge and ignorance, but ignorance is but a lack of knowledge, and is therefore found to be simply a word to express the absence of knowledge. It has no principle in itself. In the moral world, we again find the same law. We speak of good and evil, but good is a reality, something tangible, while evil is found to be simply a negative condition, the absence of good. Evil is sometimes thought to be a very real condition, but it has no principle, no vitality, no life. We know this because it can always be destroyed by good. Just as truth destroys error, and light destroys darkness, so evil vanishes when good appears. There is therefore but one principle in the moral world. We find exactly the same law obtaining in the spiritual world. We speak of mind and matter as two separate entities, but clearer insight makes it evident that there is but one operative principle, and that is mind. Mind is the real and the eternal. Matter is forever changing, We know that in the ounce of time, 100 years is but a day. If we stand in a large city and let the eye rest on the innumerable large and magnificent buildings, the vast arrays of conveniences of modern civilization, we may remember that not one of them was there just over a century ago. And if we could stand on the same spot in 100 years from now, in all probability, we shall find that but few of them remained. In the animal kingdom, we find the same law of change. The millions and millions of animals come and go, a few years constituting the span of life. In the plant world, the change is still more rapid. Many plants and nearly all grasses come and go in a single year. When we pass to the inorganic, we expect to find something more substantial, but as we gaze on the apparently solid continent, we are told that it arose from the ocean. We see the giant mountain and are told that the place where it now stands was once a lake. And as we stand in awe before the great cliffs in the Yosemite Valley, we can easily trace the path of the glaciers which carried all before them. We are in the presence of continual change, and we know that this change is but the evolution of the universal mind, the grand process whereby all things are continually being created, and we come to know that matter is but a form which mind takes and is therefore simply a condition. Matter has no principle, mind is the only principle. We have then come to know that mind is the only principle which is operative in the physical, mental, moral, and spiritual world. We also know that this mind is static, mind at rest. We also know that the ability of the individual to think is his ability to act upon the universal mind and convert it into dynamic mind or mind in motion. In order to do this, fuel must be applied in the form of food, for man cannot think without eating, and so we find that even a spiritual activity, such as thinking, cannot be converted into sources of pleasure and profit except by making use of material means. It requires energy of some kind to collect electricity and convert it into a dynamic power. It requires the rays of the sun to give the necessary energy to sustain plant life, so it also requires energy in the form of food to enable the individual to think and thereby act upon the universal mind. You may know that thought constantly, eternally is taking form, is forever seeking expression, or you may not, but the fact remains that if your thought is powerful, constructive, and positive, this will be plainly evident in the state of your health, your business, and your environment. If your thought is weak, critical, destructive, and negatively generally, you will manifest in your body as fear, worry, and nervousness, in finance as lack and limitation, and in discordant conditions in your environment. All wealth is the offspring of power. Possessions are of value only as they confer power. Events are significant only as they affect power. All things represent certain forms and degrees of power. A knowledge of cause and effect, as shown by the laws governing steam, electricity, chemical affinity, and gravitation, enables man to plan courageously and to execute fearlessly. These laws are called natural laws because they govern the physical world, but all power is not physical power. There is also mental power, and there is moral and spiritual power. What are our schools, our universities, but mental powerhouses, places where mental power is being developed? As there are many might powerhouses for the application of power to ponderous machinery, whereby raw material is collected and converted into the necessities and comforts of life. So, the mental powerhouses collect the raw material and cultivate and develop it into a power which is infinitely superior to all the forces of nature, marvelous though they may be. What is this raw material which is being collected in these thousands of mental powerhouses all over the world and developed into a power which is evidently controlling every other power? In its static form, it is mind. In its dynamic form, it is thought. This power is superior because it exists on a higher plane, because it has enabled man to discover the law by which these wonderful forces of nature could be harnessed and made to do the work of hundreds and thousands of men. It has enabled man to discover laws whereby time and space have been annihilated and the law of gravitation overcome. Thought is the vital force or energy which is being developed and which has produced such startling results in the last half century as to bring about a world which would be absolutely inconceivable to a man existing only 50 or 25 years ago. If such results have been secured by organizing these mental powerhouses in 50 years, what may not be expected in another 50 years? The substance from which all things are created is infinite in quantity. We know that light travels at the rate of 186,000 miles per second, and we know that there are stars so remote that it takes like 2,000 years to reach us, and we know that such stars exist in all parts of the heaven. We know too that this light comes in waves, so that if the ether on which these waves travel was not continuous, the light will fail to reach us. We can then only come to the conclusion that this substance or ether or raw material is universally present. How then does it manifest in form? In electrical science, a battery is formed by connecting the opposite poles of zinc and copper, which causes a current to flow from one to the other and so provides energy. The same energy, the same process is repeated in respect to every polarity, and as all form simply depends upon the rate of vibration and consequent relations of atoms to each other, if we wish to change the form of manifestation, we must change the polarity. This is the principle of causation. For your exercise this week, concentrate, and when I use the word concentrate, I mean all that the word implies. Become so absorbed in the object of your thought that you are conscious of nothing else. And do this a few minutes every day. You take the necessary time to eat in order that the body might be nourished. Why not take the time to assimilate your mental food? Let the thought rest on the fact that appearances are deceptive. The earth is not flat, neither it is stationary. The sky is not dome, the sun does not move, the stars are not small specks of light, and matter, which was once supposed to be fixed, has been found to be in a state of perpetual flux. Try to realize that the day is fast approaching. Its dawn is now at hand, when modes of thought and action must be adjusted to rapidly increasing knowledge of the operation of eternal principles. Silent thought is, after all, the mightiest agent in human affairs. Channing. For many years, there has been an endless discussion as to the origin of evil. Theologians have told us that God is love and that God is omnipresent. If this be true, there is no place where God is not. When then is evil, Satan and hell? Let us see. God is spirit. Spirit is the creative principle of the universe. Man is made in the image and likeness of God, and is therefore a spiritual being. The only activity which spirit possesses is the power to think. Thinking is therefore a creative process. All form is therefore the result of the thinking process. The destruction of form must also be a result of the thinking process. Look, Puffy, that she's twinkling as she sleeps. Fictitious representations of form are the result of the creative power of thought, as in hypnotism. Apparent representation of form are the result of the creative power of thought, as in spiritualism. Invention, organization, and constructive work of all kinds are the results of the creative power of thought, as in concentration. When the creative power of thought is manifested for the benefit of humanity, we call the result good. When the creative power of thought is manifested in a destructive or evil manner, we call the result evil. This indicates the origin of both good and evil. They are simply words which have been coined in order to indicate the nature of the result of the thinking or creative process. Thought necessarily precedes and determines action. Action precedes and predetermines condition. Part 20 will throw more light upon this important subject. The spirit of a thing is that thing. It is necessarily fixed, changeless, and eternal. The spirit of you is you. Without the spirit, you will be nothing. It becomes active through your recognition of it and its possibilities. Unless you recognize, you may have all the wealth, but unless you recognize it and make use of it, if it will have no value. So, with your spiritual wealth, unless you recognize it and use it, it will have no value. The one and only condition of spiritual power is use or recognition. All great things come through recognition. The scepter of power is consciousness. All thought is its messenger, and this messenger is constantly molding the realities of the invisible world into the conditions and environments of your objective world. Thinking is the true business of life. Power is the result. You are, at all times, dealing with the magical power of thought and consciousness. What results can you expect so long as you remain oblivious to the power which has been placed within your control? So long as you do this, you limit yourself to superficial conditions and make of yourself a beast of burden for those who think. Those who recognize their power, those who know that unless we are willing to think, we shall have to work, and the less we think, the more we shall have to work, and the less we shall get for our work. The secret of power is a perfect understanding of the principles, forces, methods, and combinations of mind, and a perfect understanding of our relationship to the universal mind. It is well to remember that this principle is unchangeable. If this were not so, you will not be reliable. All principles are changeless. This stability is your opportunity. You are its active attribute, the channel for its activity. The universal can act only through the individual. When you begin to perceive that the essence of the universal is within yourself, is you, you begin to do things, you begin to feel your power. It is the fuel which fires the imagination, which lights the torch of inspiration, which gives vitality to thought, which enables you to connect with all the invisible forces of the universe. It is this power which will enable you to plan fearlessly, to execute masterfully. But perception will come only in the silence. This seems to be the condition required for all great purposes. You are a visualizing entity. Imagination is your workshop. It is here that your ideal is to be visualized. I like this sentence. Wait. As a perfect understanding of the nature of this power is a primary condition for its manifestation. Visualize the entire method over and over again so that you may use it whenever occasion requires. The infinity of wisdom is to follow the method whereby we may have the inspiration of the omnipotent universal mind on demand at any time. We can fail to recognize this word within and so exclude it from our consciousness, but it will still be the basic fact of all existence, and when we learn to recognize it, not only in ourselves but in all persons, events, things, and circumstances, we shall have found the kingdom of heaven, which we are told is within us. Our failures are a result of the operation of exactly the same principle. The principle is unchangeable. Its operation is exact. There is no deviation. If we think lack, limitation, discord, we shall find their fruits on every hand. If we think poverty, unhappiness, or disease, the thought messengers will carry the summons as readily as any other kind of thought, and the result will be just as certain. If we fear a coming calamity, we shall be able to say with Job, "The thing I feared has come upon me." If we think unkindly or ignorantly, we shall thus attract to ourselves the results of our ignorance. This power of thought, if understood and correctly used, is the greatest labor saving device ever dreamed. But if not understood or improperly used, the result will, in all probability, be disastrous, as we have already seen. By the help of this power, you can confidently undertake things that are seemingly impossible, because this power is the secret of all inspiration, all genius. To become inspired means to get out of the beaten path, out of the route, because extraordinary results require extraordinary means. When we come into a recognition of the unity of all things and that the source of all power is within, we tap the source of inspiration. Inspiration is the art of imbibing, the art of self realization, the art of adjusting the individual mind to that of the universal mind, the art of attaching the proper mechanism to the source of all power, the art of differentiating the formless into form, the art of becoming a channel for the flow of infinite wisdom, the art of visualizing perfection, the art of realizing the omnipresence of omnipotence, an understanding and appreciation of the fact that the infinite power is omnipresent and is therefore in the infinitely small as well as the infinitely large will enable us to absorb its essence. A further understanding of the fact that this power is spirit and therefore indivisible will enable us to appreciate is present at all points at the same time. An understanding of these facts, first intellectually and then emotionally, will enable us to think deeply from the ocean of infinite power. An intellectual understanding will be of no assistance. The emotions must be brought into action. Thought without feeling is cold. The required combination is thought and feeling. Inspiration is from within. The silence is necessary. The senses must be stilled. The muscles relaxed. Repose cultivated. When you have thus come into possession of a sense of poise and power, you will be ready to receive the information or inspiration or wisdom which may be necessary for the development of your purpose. Do not confuse these methods with those of the clairvoyant. They have nothing in common. Inspiration is the art of receiving and makes for all that is the best in life. Your business in life is to understand and command these invisible forces instead of letting them command and rule you. Power implies service, inspiration implies power. To understand and apply the method of inspiration is to become a Superman. We can live more abundantly every time we breathe, if we consciously breathe with that intention. The if is a very important condition in this case, as the intention governs the attention, and without the attention you can secure only the results which everyone else secures, that is, a supply equal to the demand. In order to secure the larger supply, your demand must be increased, and as you consciously increase the demand, the supply will follow. You will find yourself coming into a larger and larger supply of life, energy, and vitality. The reason for this is not difficult to understand, but it is another of the vital mysteries of life, which does not seem to be generally appreciated. If you make it your own, you will find it one of the great realities of life. We are told that in Him we live and move and have our being, and we are told that He is a spirit, and again that He is love, so that every time we breathe this life, love, and spirit. This is pranic energy or pranic ether. We could not exist a moment without it. It is the cosmic energy. It is the life of the solar plexus. Every time we breathe, we fill our lungs with air and at the same time vitalize our body with this pranic ether, which is life itself, so that we have the opportunity of making a conscious connection with all life, all intelligence, and all substance. I'll make another post about this. Okay, so a knowledge of your relation and oneness with this principle that governs the universe, and the simple method whereby you can consciously identify yourself with it, gives you a scientific understanding of a law whereby you may free yourself from disease, from lack or limitation of any kind. In fact, it enables you to breathe the breath of life into your own nostrils. This breath of life is a superconscious reality. It is the essence of the I am. It is pure being or universal substance, and our conscious unity with it enable us to localize it and thus exercise the powers of this creative energy. Thought is creative vibration, and the quality of the conditions created will depend upon the quality of our thought, because we cannot express powers which we do not possess. We must be before we can do, and we can do only to the extent to which we are, and so that we do will necessarily coincide with what we are, and what we are depends on what we think. So much love all these sentences. Every time you think, you start a train of causation, which will create a condition in strict accordance with the quality of the thought which originated it. Thought which is in harmony with the universal mind will result in corresponding conditions. Thought which is destructive or discordant will produce corresponding results. You may use thought constructively or destructively, but the immutable law will not allow you to plant a thought of one kind and reap the fruit of another. You are free to use this marvelous creative power as you will, but you must take the consequences. This is the danger from what is called willpower. There are those who seem to think that by force of will they can coerce this law, that they can sow seed of one kind and by willpower make it bear fruit of another. But the fundamental principle of creative power isn't universal, and therefore the idea of forcing a compliance with our wishes by the power of the individual will is an inverted conception which may appear to succeed for a while, but is eventually doomed to failure because it antagonizes the very power which it is seeking to use. It is the individual attempting to coerce the universal, the finite in conflict with the infinite. Our permanent well being will be best conserved by a conscious cooperation with the continuous forward movement of the Great Wall. For your exercise this week, go into the silence and concentrate on the fact that in Him we live and move and have our being. It's literally and scientifically exact that you are because He is. That if He is omnipresent, He must be in you. That if He is all in all, you must be in Him. That He is spirit and you are made in His image and likeness. And that the only difference between His spirit and your spirit is one of degree. Oh, aiuto. That a part must be the same in kind and quality as the whole. When you can realize this, clearly you will have found the secret of the creative power of thought. You will have found the origin of both good and evil. You will have found the secret of the wonderful power of concentration. You will have found the key to the solution of every problem, whether physical, financial, or environmental. The power to think consecutively and deeply and clearly is an avowed and deadly enemy to mistakes and blunders, superstitions, unscientific theories, irrational beliefs, unbridled enthusiasm, fanaticism. Ad hoc. Part 21. Wait, I want to see how many pages still we have. Wait, finish it. Part 21. It is my privilege to enclose part 21. In paragraph 7, you will find that one of the secrets of success, one of the methods of organizing victory, one of the accomplishments of the mastermind is to think big thoughts. In paragraph 8, you will find that everything which we hold in our consciousness for any length of time becomes impressed upon our subconsciousness and so becomes a pattern which the creative energy will wave into our life and environment. This is the secret of the wonderful power of prayer. We know that the universe is governed by law, that for every effect there must be a cause, and that the same cause under the same conditions will invariably produce the same effect. Consequently, if prayer has ever been answered, it will always be answered if the proper conditions are complied with. This must necessarily be true, otherwise the universe will be a chaos instead of a cosmos. The answer to prayer is therefore subject to law, and this law is definite, exact, and scientific, just as are the laws governing gravitation and electricity. An understanding of this law takes the foundation of Christianity out of the realm of superstition and credulity and places upon the firm rock of scientific understanding. But unfortunately, there are comparatively few persons who know how to pray. They understand that there are laws governing electricity, mathematics, and chemistry, but for some inexplicable reason, it never seems to occur to them that there are also spiritual laws, and that these laws are also definite, scientific, exact, and operate with immutable precision. I need drink. Buffina, she's not anymore in the screen. Fili, vieni? Ah, stai parlando lì? Part 21. The real secret of power is consciousness of power. The universal mind is unconditional. Therefore, the more conscious we become, um, the more conscious we become of our unity with this mind, the less conscious we shall become of conditions and limitations. And as we become emancipated or freed from conditions, we come into a realization of the unconditional. We have become free. As soon as we become conscious of the inexhaustible power in the world within, we begin to draw on this power and apply and develop the greater possibilities which this discernment has realized, because whatever we become conscious of is invariably manifested in the objective world, is brought forth into tangible expression. This is because the infinite mind, which is the source from which all things proceed, is one. This is because the infinite mind, which is the source from which all things proceed, is one and indivisible, and each individual is a channel whereby this eternal energy is being manifested. Our ability to think is our ability to act upon this universal substance, and what we think is what is created or produced in the objective world. The result of this discovery is nothing less than marvelous, and means that mind is extraordinary in quality, limitless in quantity, and contains possibilities without number. To become conscious of this power is to become a live wire. It has the same effect as placing an ordinary wire in contact with a wire that is charged. The universal is the live wire. It carries power sufficient to meet every situation which may arise in the life of every individual. When the individual mind touches the universal mind, he receives all the power he requires. This is the word within. All science recognizes the reality of this word, and all power is contingent upon our recognition of this word. The ability to eliminate imperfect conditions depends upon mental action, and mental action depends upon consciousness of power. Therefore, the more conscious we become of our unity with the source of all power, the greater will be our power to control and master every condition. Large ideas have a tendency to eliminate all smaller ideas, so it is well to hold ideas large enough to counteract and destroy all small or undesirable tendencies. This will remove innumerable petty and annoying obstacles from your path. You also become conscious of a larger world of thought. Oh, saved. No, I need to recharge. Pause. I need to restart it. Let's restart it. It's 1%. All right. Wait. Here we are. Let me change position. You can see you in the puffy. Allora. Where we were. Okay. You also become conscious of a larger world of thought, thereby increasing your mental capacity as well as placing yourself in position to accomplish something of value. This is one of the secrets of success, one of the methods of organizing victory, one of the accomplishments of the mastermind. It thinks big thoughts. The creative energy of mind find no more difficulty in handling large situations than small ones. Mind is just as much present in the infinitely large as the infinitely small. When we realize these facts concerning mind, we understand how we may bring ourselves any condition by creating the corresponding conditions in our consciousness, because everything which is held for any length of time in the consciousness eventually becomes impressed upon the subconscious and thus becomes a pattern which the creative energy will wave into the life and environment of the individual. In this way, conditions are produced, and we find that our lives are simply the reflection of our predominant thoughts, our mental attitude. We see then that the science of correct thinking is the one science, that it includes all other sciences. From this science, we learn that every thought creates an impression on the brain, that these impressions create mental tendencies, and these tendencies create character, ability, and purpose, and that the combination action of character, and that the combined action of character, ability, and purpose determines the experiences with which we shall meet in life. These experiences come to us through the law of attraction. Through the action of this law, we meet in the world without the experiences which correspond to our world within. The predominant thought or the mental attitude is the magnet, and the law is that like attracts like. Consequently, the mental attitude will invariably attract such conditions as correspond to its nature. This mental attitude is our personality and is composed of the thoughts which we have been creating in our own mind. Therefore, if we wish a change in conditions, all that is necessary is to change our thought. This will in turn change our mental attitude, which will in turn change our personality, which will in turn change the persons, things, and conditions or the experiences with which we meet in life. It is, however, no easy matter to change the mental attitude, but by persistent effort it may be accomplished. The mental attitude is patterned after the mental pictures, which have been photographed on the brain. If you don't like the pictures, destroy the negatives and create new pictures. This is the art of visualization. As soon as you have done this, you will begin to attract new things, and the new things will correspond to the new picture. To do this, impress on the mind a perfect picture of the desire which you wish to have objectified, and continue to hold the picture in mind until results are obtained. If the desire is one which requires determination, ability, talent, courage, power, or any other spiritual power, these are necessary essential for your picture. Build them in, they are the vital part of the picture. They are the feeling which combines with thought and creates the irresistible magnetic power which draws the things you require to you. They give your picture life, and life means growth. And as soon as it begins to grow. They have written wrong. The result is practically assured. Do not hesitate to aspire to the highest possible attainments in anything you may undertake, for the mind forces are ever ready to lend themselves to a purposeful will in the effort to crystallize its highest aspirations into acts, accomplishments, and events. An illustration of how these mind forces operate is suggested by the method in which all our habits are formed. We do a thing, then do it again and again and again until it becomes easy and perhaps almost automatic. And the same rule applies in breaking any and all bad habits. We stop doing a thing and then again till we are free from it. And if we do fail now and then, we shall by no means lose hope, for the law is absolute and invincible and give us credit for every effort and every success, even though our efforts and successes are perhaps intermittent. There is no limit to what this law can do for you. Dare to believe in your own idea. Remember, the nature is plastic to the ideal. Think of the ideal as an already accomplished fact. The real battle of life is one of ideas. It is being fought out by the few against the many. On the one side is the constructive and creative thought, and the other side, the destructive and negative thought. The creative thought is dominated by an ideal. The passive thought is dominated by appearances. I love this sentence. Here we are. On both sides are men of science, men of letters, men of affairs. On the creative side are men who spend their time in laboratories or over microscopes and telescopes side by side with the men who dominate the commercial, political, and scientific world. On the negative side are men who spend their time investigating law and precedent, men who mistake theology for religion, statesmen who mistake mind for right, and all the millions who seem to prefer precedent um, to progress, who are eternally looking backward instead of forward, who sees only the world without but know nothing of the world within. In the last analysis, there are but these two classes. All men will have to take their place on one side or the other. They will have to go forward or go back. There is no standing still in a world where all is motion. It is this attempt to stand still that gives sanction and force to arbitrary and unequal codes of law. That we are in a period of transition is evidenced by the unrest which is everywhere apparent. The complaint of humanity is as a roll of heaven's artillery, commencing with low and threatening notes and increasing until the sound is sent from cloud to cloud, and the lightning splits the air and earth. The sentries who patrol the most advanced outposts of the industrial, political, and religious world are calling anxiously to each other. What of the night? the danger and insecurity of the position they occupy, an attempt to hold, is becoming more apparent every hour. The dawn of a new era necessarily declares that the existing order of things cannot much longer be. The issue between the old regime and the new, the crux of the social problem, is entirely a question of conviction in the minds of the people as to the nature of the universe. When they realize that the transcendent force of spirit or mind of the cosmos is within each individual, it will be possible to frame laws that shall consider the liberties and rights of the many instead of the privileges of the few. As long as the people regard the cosmic power as a power non-human and alien to humanity, so long will it be comparatively easy for a supposed privileged class to rule by divine right, in spite of every protest of social sentiment. The real interest of democracy is therefore to exalt, emancipate, and recognize the divinity of the human spirit, to recognize that all power is from within, that no human being has any more power than any other human being, except such as may willingly be delegated to him. The old regime would have us believe that the law was superior to the lawmakers. Reign is the gist of the social crime of every form of privilege and personal inequality, the institutionalizing of the fatalistic doctrine of divine election. The divine mind is the universal mind. It makes no exceptions, it plays no favorites, it does not act through sheer caprice or from anger, jealousy, or wrath. Neither can it be flattered, cajoled, or moved by sympathy or petition to supply man with some need which he thinks necessary for his happiness or even his existence. The divine mind makes no exceptions to favor any individual, but when the individual understands and realizes his unity with the universal principle, he will appear to be favored because he will have found the source of all health, all wealth, and all power. For your exercise this week, I love when we arrive here. Concentrate on the truth. Try to realize that the truth shall make you free. That is, nothing can permanently stand in the way of your perfect success when you learn to apply the scientifically correct thought methods and principles. Realize that you are externalizing in your environment your inherent soul potencies. Realize that the silence offers an ever available and almost unlimited opportunity for awakening the highest conception of truth. Try to comprehend that omnipotence itself is absolute silence, all else is change activity limitation. Silent thought concentration is therefore the true method of reaching, awakening, and then expressing the wonderful potential power of the word within. The possibilities of thought training are infinite, its consequence eternal, and yet few take the pains to direct their thinking into channels that will do them good, but instead leave all to chance. Martin. Part 22. We have almost finished. In part 22, you will find the thoughts as spiritual seeds, which, when planted in the subconscious mind, have a tendency to sprout and grow, but unfortunately the fruit is frequently not to our liking. The various forms of inflammations, paralysis, nervousness, and diseased conditions generally are the manifestation of fear, worry, care, anxiety, jealousy, hatred, and similar thought. The life processes are carried on by two distinct methods. First, the taking up and making use of nutritive material necessary for constructing cells. Second, breaking down and excreting the waste material. All life is based upon these constructive and destructive activities, and as food, water, and air are the only requisites necessary for the construction of cells, it would seem that the problem of prolonging life indefinitely will not be a very difficult one. However, strange it may seem, it is the second or destructive activity that is, with rare exception, the cause of all disease. The waste material accumulates and saturates the tissues, which causes autointoxication. This may be partial or general. In the first case, the disturbance will be local. In the second place, it will affect the whole system. The problem then, before us, ah, the problem then, before us in the healing of disease, is to increase the inflow and distribution of vital energy through the system. And this can only be done by eliminating thoughts of fear, worry, care, anxiety, hatred, and every other destructive thought, which tend to tear down and destroy the nerves and glands, which control the excretion and elimination of poisons and waste matter. Nourishing foods and strengthening tonics cannot bestow life because these are a secondary manifestation to life. The primary manifestation of life and how you may get in touch with it is explained in the part which I have the privilege of enclosing here with. Knowledge, and now if you hear me to roost, knowledge is of priceless value because by applying knowledge, we can make our future what we wish it to be. When we realize that our present character, our present environment, our present ability, our present physical condition are all the result of past methods of thinking, we shall begin to have some conception of the value of knowledge. If the state of our health is not all that could be desired, let us examine our method of thinking. Let us remember that every thought produces an impression on the mind. Every impression is a seed which will sink into the subconscious and form a tendency. The tendency will be to attract other similar thoughts, and before we know it, we shall have a crop which must be harvested. If these thoughts contain disease germs, the harvest will be sickness, decay, weakness, and failure. The question is, what are we thinking? What are we creating? What is the harvest to be? If there is any physical condition which it is necessary to change, the law governing visualization will be found effective. Make a mental image of physical perfection. Hold it in mind until it is absorbed by consciousness. Many have eliminated chronic ailments in a few weeks by this method, and thousands have overcome and destroyed all manner of ordinary physical disturbances by this method in a few days, sometimes in a few minutes. It is through the law of vibration that the mind exercises this control over the body. We know that every mental action is a vibration, and we know that all form is simply a mode of motion, a rate of vibration. Therefore, any given vibration immediately modifies every atom in the body. Every life cell is affected, and an entire chemical change is made in every group of life cells. Everything in the universe is, what it is by virtue of its rate of vibration. Change the rate of vibration and you change the nature, quality, and form. The vast panorama of nature, both visible and invisible, is being constantly changed by simply changing the rate of vibration. And as towards the vibration, we can also exercise this power. We can change the vibration and thus produce any condition which we desire to manifest in our bodies. We are all using this power every minute. The trouble is most of us are using it unconsciously and thus producing undesirable results. The problem is to use it intelligently and produce only desirable results. This shall not be difficult because we have all had sufficient experience to know what produces pleasant vibration in the body, and we also know the causes which produce the unpleasant and disagreeable sensations. All that is necessary is to consult our own experience. When our thought has been uplifted, progressive, constructive, courageous, noble, kind, or in any other way desirable, we have set in motion vibrations which brought about certain results. When our thought has been filled with envy, hatred, criticism, or any of the other thousand and one forms of discord, certain vibrations were set in motion which brought upon certain other results of a different nature, and each of these rates of vibration, if kept up, crystallized in form. In the first case, the result was mental, moral, and physical health, and in the second case, discord, inharmony, and disease. We can understand then something of the power which the mind possesses over the body. The objective mind has certain effects on the body, which are readily recognized. Someone says something to you which strikes you as ludicrous and you laugh, possibly until your whole body shakes, which shows that thought has control over the muscles of your body. Or someone says something which excites your sympathy and your eyes fill with tears, which shows that thought controls the glands of your body. Or someone says something which makes you angry and the blood mounts to your cheek, which shows that thought controls the circulation of your blood. But as these experiences are all the results of the action of your objective mind over the body, the results are of a temporary nature. They soon pass away and leave the situation as it was before. Let us see how the action of the subconscious mind over the body differs. You receive a wound, thousands of cells being the work of healing at once. In a few days or a few weeks, the work is complete. You may even break a bone. No surgeon or heart can weld the parts together. I am not referring to the insertion of rods or other devices to strengthen or replace bones. He may set the bone for you, and the subjective mind will immediately begin the process of welding the parts together. And in a short time, the bone is as solid as he ever was. You may swallow poison. The subjective mind will immediately discover the danger and make violent efforts to eliminate it. You may become infected with a dangerous germ. The subjective will at once commence to build a wall around the infected area and destroy the infection by absorbing it in the white blood corpuscles which it supplies for the purpose. These processes of the subconscious mind usually proceed without our personal knowledge or direction, and so long as we do not interfere, the result is perfect. But as these millions of repair cells are all intelligent and respond to our thought, they are often paralyzed and rendered impotent by our thoughts of fear, doubt, and anxiety. They are like an army of workmen, ready to start an important piece of work, but every time they get started on the undertaking, a strike is called or plans changed until they finally get discouraged and give up. The way to health is founded on the law of vibration, which is the basis of all science, and this law is brought into operation by the mind, the word within. It is a matter of individual effort and practice. Our word of power is within. If we are wise, we shall not waste time and effort in trying to deal with effects as we find them in the world without. which is only an external reflection. We shall always find the cause in the world within. By changing the cause, we change the effect. Every cell in your body is intelligent and will respond to your direction. The cells are all creators and will create the exact pattern which you give them. Therefore, when perfect images are placed before the subjective, the creative energies will build a perfect body. Brain cells are constructed in the same way. The quality of the brain is governed by the state of mind or mental attitude, so that if undesirable mental attitudes are conveyed to the subjective, they will in turn be transferred to the body. We can therefore readily see that if we wish the body to manifest health, strength, and vitality, this must be the predominant thought. We know then that every element of the human body is the result of a rate of vibration. We know that mental action is a rate of vibration. We know that a higher rate of vibration governs, modifies, controls, changes, or destroys a lower rate of vibration. We know that the rate of vibration is governed by the character of brain cells. And finally, we know how to create these brain cells. Therefore, we know how to make any physical change in the body we desire. And having secured a working knowledge of the power of mind, to this extent, we have come to know that there is practically no limitation which can be placed upon our ability to place ourselves in harmony with natural law, which is omnipotent. This influence or control over the body by mind is coming to be more and more generally understood, and many physicians are now giving the matter their earnest attention. Dr. Albert Schofield, who has written several important books on the subject, said, "The subject of mental therapeutics is still ignored in medical works generally. In our physiologies, no references is made to the central controlling power that rules the body for its good, and the power of the mind over the body is seldom spoken of. No doubt, many physicians treat nervous disease of functional origin wisely and well. But what we contend is that the knowledge they display was taught at no school, was learned from no book, but it is intuitive and empirical. This is not as it should be. The power of mental therapeutics should be the subject of careful, special, and scientific teaching in every medical school. We may pursue the subject of maltreatment or want of treatment further in detail and describe the disastrous result of neglected cases, but the task is an invidious one. There can be no doubt that few patients are aware how much they can do for themselves. What the patient can do for himself, the forces he can set in motion, are as yet unknown. We are inclined to believe that they are far greater than most imagine, and will undoubtedly be used more and more. Mental therapeutics may be directed by the patient himself to calming the mind in excitement, by arousing feelings of joy, hope, faith, and love, by suggesting motives for exertion, by regular mental work, by diverting the thoughts from the malady. For your exercise this week, concentrate on Tennyson's beautiful lines. Speak to him, you, for years, and spirit with spirit can meet. Closer is he than breathing, and nearer than hands and feet. Then try to realize that when you do speak to him, you are in touch with omnipotence. This realization and recognition of this omnipresent power will quickly destroy any and every form of sickness or suffering and substitute harmony and perfection. Then remember, there are those who seem to think that sickness and suffering are sent by God. If so, Every physician, every surgeon, and every Red Cross nurse is defying the will of God, and hospitals and sanitariums are places of rebellion instead of houses of mercy. Of course, this quickly reasons itself into an absurdity, but there are many who still cherish the idea. Then let the thought rest on the fact that, until recently, theology has been trying to teach an impossible creator, one who created beings capable of sinning and then allowed them to be eternally punished for such sins. Of course, the necessary outcome of such extraordinary ignorance was to create fear instead of love. And so, after 2000 years of this kind of propaganda, theology is now busily engaged in apologizing for Christendom. You will then more readily appreciate the ideal man, the man made in the image or likeness of God, and you will more readily appreciate the all originating mind that forms, upholds, sustains, originates, and creates all there is. All are but parts of one stupendous whole, whose body nature is and God the soul. Opportunity follows perception, action follows inspiration, growth follows knowledge, eminence flows progress, always the spiritual first, then the transformation into the infinite and illimitable possibilities of achievement. I guess we have still a little bit, but for today we have done because I'm tired. So, thank you.